flee from the face. The Bible prophecy talks about a time where heaven and earth will flee from the face of Christ. And heaven and earth fleeing from the face of Christ is seen in the prophecy. Revelation chapter 20, verse 11. And I saw a great white throne and him that sat on it, from whose face the earth and heaven fled away, and there was found no place for them. This is after the 1,000-year reign of Christ, when the great white throne judgment occurs. And all creation is brought before Christ and his flaming face. And there, after which, new heaven and a new earth is created. And we see Christ with his flaming face of fire. Revelation chapter 1, verse 14. His head and his hairs were white like wool, as white as snow, and his eyes were as a flame of fire. And we see his eyes a flame of fire as well. In Revelation chapter 2, verse 18, it says, And unto the angel of the church of Thyatira write, These things saith the Son of God, who hath eyes like unto a flame of fire, and his feet are like fine brass. In Revelation chapter 19, verse 12, on his return, it says, His eyes were as a flame of fire, and on his head were many crowns, and he had a name written that no man knew but himself. And it is Christ who's seated on the throne with the Father. That's why you see the throne of God and the throne of Lamb are one. Revelation chapter 22, verse 3, And there shall be no more curse, but the throne of God and of the Lamb shall be in it, and his servants shall serve him. And we see that mentioned in Revelation chapter 3, verse 21. To him that overcometh will I grant to sit with me in my throne, even as I also overcame and am sat down with my Father in his throne. So it's Christ that's seated on the throne, and his face is a flaming fire which heaven and earth flees. Peter, in 2 Peter chapter 3, verse 5 says, For this they willingly are ignorant of, that by the word of God the heavens were of old, and the earth standing out of the water and in the water, whereby the world that then was, being overflowed with water, perished. But the heavens and the earth, which are now, by the same word, are kept in store, reserved unto fire against the day of judgment and perdition of ungodly men. So when is the judgment of ungodly men and perdition? It is at the second resurrection, after the 1,000 years that the world is reserved for fire. Revelation chapter 20, verse 11, And I saw a great white throne, and him that sat on it, from whose face the earth and heaven fled away, and there was found no place for them. And this, right here, this verse again, is after the 1,000 years, when the heaven and the earth flee from his face. So then the judgment begins. We see in Revelation chapter 20, verse 12, And I saw the dead and the small and great stand before God, and the books were opened, and another book was opened, which is the book of life. And the dead were judged out of those things which were written in the books according to their works. And the sea gave up the dead which were in it, and death and hell delivered up the dead which were in them, and they were judged every man according to their works. And death and hell were cast into the lake of fire. This is the second death. So when is this occurring? So what we notice is immediately following in the description of the judgment of the ungodly men in perdition, that the world that is reserved for fire, for that day of judgment, immediately following without stopping is the prophecy of Revelation chapter 21, verse 1. It says, And I saw a new heaven and a new earth, for the first heaven and the first earth were passed away, and there was no more sea. And this is when we see that the heaven and the earth flee from the face of Christ, from him who sits on the throne. So we see at that point of judgment that Christ is sitting on the throne with the flame of fire of his face, and the heaven and the earth flee from his face at that point when a new heaven and a new earth is created. And this is after the 1,000 years, at the judgment of ungodly men. Then the new heaven and the new earth occurs, and the old heaven and the old earth flee from his face. And the one who sitteth on that throne is the face of Christ. And this is the prophecy of flee from his face.